how does all of this affect women who need men?
Well, I think the most striking statistic that I know of is, well, the striking statistics are the two we already discussed. The radical rise in unhappiness among unmarried young women who have liberal proclivities, and the fact that 50% of women in the West now who are 30 don't have a child, and that half of those will never have a child despite wanting one. It's so dreadful. Like, you just take those women, let's just think about them for a minute. So that means that half of women at 30 who don't have a child, half of them will search for a mate and try to have a child, let's say through their 30s, and then that won't work. And so then they'll hit 40 and they'll be alone for 50 years. Right. And the thing is, as you get older, the people that you have gathered around you, your family, become increasingly important to you and increasingly necessary. And what you do when you mature is that you start attending to other people more than you attend to yourself. That's the definition of maturity. Now, you know that as a mother, and you also.
That is definitely true. As I'm getting older, I found myself that I tend to care about other people so much for some reason. I don't know, but I guess that's what he's describing. When you're younger, it's all about you. But as you get older, whether you have kids or not, you tend to care about the people, obviously the people who care about you as well, but you tend to show more appreciation for other people, in my opinion, at least in my experience so far.
Also know that that's a relief, right? It's that you find your purpose in that. And
that's right.
When the lefties, they talk about marriage as a patriarchal, oppressive institution. And, you can be unlucky, and some women are. They find a man his mode of relation is power, and they end up subjugated, although they generally play their own part in that, because women aren't that easy to subjugate, all things considered.
No, they say you teach people how to treat you.
Yes, well, like, women have their mechanisms, and they're very effective. Let's put it that way. So, but you see that the problem with the progressive liberal types is that they think that being mentally healthy is a matter of getting your individual psyche in order. And that's not right. Being mentally healthy is a matter of arranging the hierarchy around you that you belong to in a harmonious manner, so that there's you and your relationship with yourself, but then there's you and your relationship with your husband, and then the relationship between both of you and your children, and then the relationship between your families and other families in your town, and then with regard to your state and your nation, and then with regards to the natural world and to whatever's beyond that, say in the landscape of divinity. And happiness, resilience, meaning, purpose are all a consequence of organizing that hierarchy properly and finding your place within it. It's not an individualistic pursuit. And even the Scottish liberals, let's say, of the Enlightenment, who established liberal individuality, did that with the presumption that they were operating within a radically Christian framework and society. So what they did was they took the existence of that hierarchy for granted, and then said, well, if you organize that properly, then you can be a fully functioning individual. It's like, fair enough. But when all that collapses and an increasing majority of young people are headed for a relationshipless and childless future, then none of those liberal presuppositions hold. And so that makes everyone, well, it deprives their life of the meaning that comes in social service, and look, human beings are unbelievably social. You can take psychopathic murderers and you can punish them by depriving them of other people. That's how social we are. Right. So think about that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, right. So you can't be happy alone.
That's fact. Sometimes we hear women say, I don't mind being single. I don't need a man, this and that. But even the women who say they don't need men or they don't mind dying single, they have girlfriends. There is no woman who says she doesn't mind dying single and she has no friends, which gets to show, which Dr. Peterson just said, that as humans, we are social creatures. Either it's going to be your friends, your kids, your family members, but no one can just be by themselves the entire time. So sure, you don't need a man, but you certainly do need a police officer. You need a firefighter. You need the men who construct the roads that you drive on. You need other men to come protect you. You need the men in the military. That's for sure. You feel me? But you also need your friends. You need the waiters in the restaurants once you go to your brunch with your girlfriends. You need the DJ to play the music once you go out to party. You feel me? So at the end of the day, we all need each other. So, but the whole I don't need them. Even some men say they don't need no women, but I feel we need each other. At the end of the day, society is not going to run if we just segregate each other from each other for times to come. Society is just going to die off.
Besides, you shouldn't be striving to be happy anyways, because happy is a side effect, not an aim. But even if it was an aim, which it isn't, there's no happiness alone. I mean, what? There's nothing happier than a friendless teenager. I mean, who believes that? No one breathing believes that. That's the stupidest thing you could believe. Like, teenagers are desperate to belong, and you can parody that and say, well, if your friends all jumped off a cliff, would you? And, there's limits to how much you should sacrifice your soul to be part of the group. But by the same token, like, what other people think of you and how they relate to you, not only does that matter, it should matter. And so the whole progressive theory of the human being it's flawed in a manner that makes its enactment produce nothing but resentful pathology and misery.
Let me ask you this. I've been dying to ask you this. I speak with a lot of young conservative women regularly, and and they are very aware of everything you've said. They've got their eye on the biological clock in a way the previous generation did not. They understand the risks of waiting too long to choose a partner, all of that. They do get it. But a lot of them still, they want a career of their own. They're driven professionally in that way. And what they ask me, Jordan, is, should I just settle? Should I just settle? I'm 29 now. I have a career that I like. I haven't met the right guy yet, but there are guys who are interested in me. So should I just settle now for somebody who I'm really not that into?
Well, the first thing I would ask is that who's settling in that equation? Like, it's quite the narcissistic proclamation that it's clearly you who's settling, and that might even be more true if you're 29, because you're competing with a lot of 24-year-olds by that point, and they put a lot less biological pressure on a potential mate. Like, look, when I was out touring 3 nights in a row, the same question came up, because I do a Q&A at the end of my lectures, and this is in the last round of tours. And one of the questions was, well, how do I find the person that's right for me? And I didn't answer it the first night. There was something about the question I didn't like. And then it came up 2 more nights in a row and was voted up by the audience. And the third night I thought, oh, I know why I tried stumbling through an answer and it didn't work. And then the third night I thought, oh, I know what the problem is here. That's the wrong question. Because the right question is, how do I make myself into the sort of person that's so attractive to other people that potential mates are lining up for me?
Facts. We have seen so many times women have a list of things they want from a man, but they rarely have a list of things they are giving to a man. So she will list down 10 things: tall, charming, kind, money, good sex game, travel, funny, make me laugh, things like that. And as soon as a man says, what do you bring to the table? Oh, you're toxic, you're controlling, I'm the table, I'm the prize, I'm here, do all these things, and they deflect from the fact that they didn't mention anything they're giving to that man. So shout out to Jordan Peterson for saying, hey, listen, and this goes to both men and women. Instead of talking about how do I meet the right person, how about you find out what the man you want or the woman you want wants from the opposite sex and make yourself that kind of person. As a man, okay, women like a man, what are the things I can control? I'm not tall, I'm bald, but they like a man who's well groomed, who's stable, who works hard, who's a gentleman. So I'll focus on those things because those things I can't control. You, as a woman, focus on the things men want. But usually, women tell men to be the type of men they want, but they never become the women men want. They just want men to accept them the way they are.
That's a
Mhm.
way different
Mhm.
question than how do I find the person that's right for me? Like, first of all, who are you?
I like that.
And what's so special about you that how do you know that the right person wouldn't take one look at you and run away screaming if they had any sense? Like, seriously, you're
Right.
settling, are you? If you use that language, even the first thing you might ask yourself is, why do you start with such a high opinion of yourself and such a low opinion of the people who are pursuing you? Now, look, I understand that it's necessary to be attracted to a potential partner, and
Right.
that women have the right and the duty to be picky. They should find a man who's going to be not a child and who's going to be very helpful to them in all ways, particularly when they have children, and who's going to be a good father. And so, hooray to women for being picky. But that's not the same thing as starting out narcissistic. We talked about Snow White. Before she could find a prince, she had to learn to be of service to the dwarves. Like, that's worth thinking about. Now, you might think, well, why should we pay attention to a fairy tale? It's like, well, how about because people remembered it for 15,000 years and that Disney just spent $250 million trying to retell it and failed. And so, and then with regards to the order of affairs in a woman's life, look, I calculated recently that even an attractive woman, like radically attractive woman, let's say, who often has her own problems, by the way, because she tends to scare men away, right? A lucky woman has 5 potential partners in her life. 5. You get 5 chances. That's it. Now think about let's just think that through, right? Because it's a terrifying way to think. So imagine that you're primarily looking, say, from the time you're 16 at the lowest end to say 30. Because after that, it's starting to get harder because the clock is ticking so desperately. 1 in 3 couples at 30 already have fertility problems, by the way, which is defined as difficulty conceiving within a year, even though the attempts are being made. Okay, so let's say you got 14 years, something like that. Now, how long does it take to find someone and then figure out who they are, especially if they're strangers? Before you're going to decide to marry someone, likely you're going to want to know them for a year, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so that's 5 years right there with 5 people. But that also assumes that you go from one relationship to another with no intervening space, so you're not suffering too much, for example, when a potentially promising relationship collapses, or you don't get sick or something doesn't waylay you in your professional career. So imagine 2 years per relationship. That's 10 years for 5. That's assuming that people want to be around you.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to Anton Daniels. If you guys watch Anton Daniels, he's the first person I heard say this, that most women have met the man they were supposed to get married to. Most women have met the man they were supposed to get married to. And if I play devil's advocate, like Jordan Peterson said, if both men and women knew that at most the man of their dreams, the woman of their dreams are going to be 5 people, I think most of us would take dating seriously, even marriage. Because some people are quick to leave marriages thinking the grass is always greener. They leave a good man because, oh, he doesn't like to travel with me. They leave a good man, oh, because he's too good, he's boring. We know women have left men who because they're boring. We know men who have left women because maybe they gained a couple of pounds. And like he said, I get it. We both want to be attracted to each other. But I think if we took it serious, knowing we only have just a few people who are going to be like our soulmates that we can really be compatible with, I think we wouldn't be so picky. Obviously, social media hasn't helped, because we always think the grass is greener. We always think we have so many options. But I think if we all knew that we have just a few people in our entire lifetimes that are going to be good for us, I think we wouldn't be moving from person to person.
So I don't know if you're settling. I get the picture. You don't want to lie to someone and tell them that you find them attractive in all possible ways when you don't, but maybe you could start the bloody process with a little more humility.
Well, I like the way you started that. What shouldn't the goal be to make yourself so attractive just in heart and soul, not to mention on the outside, that does require some effort, that they're lining up, there. And if that's not happening, why? Why is it?
Yeah, shout out to Megan Kelly and Jordan Peterson for this. Again, the whole thing of women having, 1,000 requirements from men, but they don't have 3 things they're bringing to that man's life is an issue. As men, we know we have to put in the work. And if we don't put in the work, our results show. You don't have a good looking woman, women reject you, things like that. But I think because women, most times, they have so many DMs, they have so many options, many guys are hitting on them. I see why they may never think about putting in the work or even thinking, what do men want? What does the man I want from a woman like me? What does he want me to do for him? They only think about what is a man going to do for me. We have seen this on Pop the Balloon, we have seen it on social media, Instagram. Like anytime a man asks a woman, what do you bring to the table? She says, I'm the table. What do you bring to me? I'm the queen, I'm the prize. But full link down below to Megan Kelly's YouTube channel. This was a great conversation.